game in particular we want to start with, right?
What, the largest comeback in postseason history? Or third
Hell
third
no. Are you kidding
largest?
me? We want to start with Fraud Watch.
Oh, you mean Josh Allen and the Bills? Or was there a different fraud you wanted to talk about?
I was thinking the Vikings, the team that we've been.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot. I completely forgot that they were even a playoff team, considering they didn't look like one for the majority of the regular season. That's right. I forgot about that.
If only someone out there was warning people about the fact that they were a fraudulent team.
Has there ever been a what was our final record? 13-4 team. Well, let's say just say 12-4 because it's only the second season of 17 games. But has there ever been a team with only four losses going into the playoffs with as many doubters as the 2022 Minnesota Vikings?
Maybe the Titans last year. Maybe. But also, I don't think their fans were as annoying as Vikings fans were all year. Nor did the Titans have as many near misses as the Vikings did this year.
And I know Vikings fans are going to point and laugh at all of us other division fans that are pointing and laughing at them, saying, hey, at least we won the division and we made the playoffs. And like, I get that. However, the reason we're being so loud is because, just like you said, their fans were so loud all season long.
What's it like to be on the other side of this kind of watching a division rival have a humiliating exit from the playoffs?
Well, it was funny. I stood up last night after Kirk Cousins threw a 3 yard out on 4th and 8. And I looked at Michelle with a big smile on my face. I went, I'm so happy, those losers. And I like air punched or air kicked. And she's like, I haven't seen you this happy for a Packers win in a long time. And I was like, look, every win this year for the Packers is pretty fraudulent. And I was realistic about it. But this is just so sweet because this was like a I told you so for the last 3.5 months coming. I was like, that's what makes this one sweet. Like, not to bring back memories of the double doink against the Eagles, but like this one was even sweeter than that as far as like watching a divisional team lose. I even listened to K Fan for a little bit last night during the Bengals Ravens game. And I put that game on mute and listened to K Fan.
Isn't it nice? It's nice.
It
It's a
is.
good
I get it
feeling
now.
every year. I get to do this once a year usually. Well, now I still got to do it this year. Not as satisfying, I'll be honest, but still, like you said, it's nice to be right. But I think the Packers losing at San Francisco or at Green Bay last year to San Francisco was up there from the most satisfying losses I've seen. So you can kind of see where I come from
Yeah.
now. And when
Uh,
I poke fun at you at like Road America or whatever, I'm not just doing it to be an asshole. It's a genuinely good feeling to watch your rival team lose in pretty bad fashion.
I've got to admit, it's kind of fun to be a loser every fifth season or so and just sit back and not have a dog in the hunt. Because
You could just support a team that's a loser every year.
yeah, it's fun to have some meaningful winter football, but I digress.
Yeah, I will say a majority of our episodes, if not almost all of our episodes this year, we've had more to talk about with the Packers than the Bears. And I think this might be the first episode this year where we have absolutely nothing to talk about with the Packers and a bunch of things to talk about with the Bears, which might be an off-season theme because, other than the Packers having to work their roster a little bit with salary cap and are certain players coming back and whatnot, I think the Bears have a much more interesting offseason coming, with the cap space and stuff.
We're on ayahuasca watch and cap watch.
Oh no, do we get another ayahuasca vacation?
Well, I'm sure that's in the books, if not already occurring as we speak.
What if Aaron Rodgers is also buying a one-way ticket to Thailand?
Maybe him and Cliff are hatching up some plans to go to some team together.
Yeah, because Cliff Kingsbury is rumored for several different OC jobs in the NFL, and here he is. He's bought a one-way ticket to Thailand and is unplugged from society for a little bit here. So
So back to the Vikings Giants. As fun as it is to, you know, piss down to watch the Vikings piss down their own leg, I think we got to give credit where credit's due to Daniel Jones.
that was honestly one of the best performances I can remember in recent memory on a road game where you were the underdog. They played very well, and Daniel Jones looked in control.
And I know I've kind of joked about US Bank, but like legitimately a very tough road environment too, noise wise, and just kind of a crazy atmosphere. I saw it on Twitter that Daniel Jones is having like a Joe Flacco esque playing for a contract type. He could be up for a
Oh
Joe
yeah,
Flacco esque contract playoff run right here.
oh yeah. And Dable called a great game. And I really, we talk about the Packers being the salary cap hell. I think the Vikings are about to be not as bad, but they still definitely have some things to figure out. I think the likes of Harrison Smith and Adam Thielen are probably for sure gone. I don't think their output worth is warranting what they're getting paid. Not sure about Eric Kendricks. He's kind of up there on maybe getting to the back half of his career, but he also is still valuable to an extent on that defense. Vikings got to take a long, hard look at their defensive coordinator situation. I think a change maybe afoot there. But I think the one thing that people aren't accounting for, which is its own separate discussion based on his performance yesterday and is maybe the last 2 weeks here with Justin Jefferson, is that they also have to factor in the fact that Justin Jefferson's about to get paid here soon, and they need to make sure they have some wiggle room in their cap to pay Justin Jefferson and not do what the Packers would normally do, which is backload his contract and then deal with the outcomes later, a la Bakhtiari.
You're not going to get a reaction out of me. I'm sorry.
Well, I just love that Bakhtiari has a $30 million cap hit coming this year. I think that's great for the Packers. But anyways, I think the Vikings are gonna have a tricky offseason, and you alluded to the fourth down play for Cousins. I think it was a stupid decision. I think when you look at the Buffalo game, if it's 4th and 18, he just said, F it. Jefferson's down there somewhere, and Jefferson makes one of the greatest catches of all time in like double, triple coverage. So how is it on 4th and 8 that you throw a 3-yard out to Hawkinson? Other than that, Kirk Cousins actually played very well. And you're going to have Vikings fans saying that we need a new quarterback and Kirk Cousins sucks. And yes, he still kind of underdelivers in the key situations of the game, but he still did everything he could to put the Vikings in a winning situation. I mean, Kirk Cousins does not play defense, so.
So you did mention Justin Jefferson, and I've been on the record saying I think he's one of the top 2 or top 3 receivers in the league, maybe even number 1. But the last 3 games of the season, I don't want to say he was a non-factor, but he had a combined 12 catches for quick math, like 90 yards, 100 yards, and 0 touchdowns, which in crunch time is when your stars are supposed to shine. So that was a little concerning.
And it's important to note that one of those games was against the Bears where they had basically no secondary whatsoever. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of questions. I mean, obviously he puts up great numbers for most of the season, but when it mattered most, he was kind of invisible. And, you watch the film on what the Giants were doing to him. They had pretty much safety help over the top every time. And I don't know if the Vikings just did a bad job of scheming him in the second half because he had 1 catch. I don't know if he was doing a lot of drag routes or whatnot, but the way the Giants played Jefferson all game, I am honestly shocked that more teams don't do that. I'm surprised that teams continue to kind of just let Jefferson do what he wants on the outside rather than doing more doubles.
It wasn't too dissimilar to what the Packers did with
Exactly.
like Amos over the top, and everyone saw how
Yeah.
well that worked. So I'm
But
not saying
the fact
he's
that more
figured
teams
out
don't do
and
that is
cracked.
insane.
Well, I think you're going to see more teams do it now, hopefully.
Hopefully. Well, then, yeah, now the Vikings are going to have to adjust. They're going to have to figure out they can't just do what they did in week 3 because it worked in week 3 or whatever. So,
And not to give Kirk Cousins any forgiveness, but let's be real. If Darius Slayton doesn't drop that drag route on 3rd down, that game's probably over.
yes, another terrible whiff by the Vikings defense. But I actually got to go to Iowa this weekend, and so we placed a bunch of bets. And we won one for the 49ers game that paid us each like $86, which was kind of nice. We had an easy one on the 49ers game that paid us each like $20. But then, man, I was last night for the Bengals game. I was one Joe Burrow passing touchdown and one Joe Mixon rushing yard away from $70. I was like one Stephon Diggs touchdown and five Dawson Knox yards away from $110. And then the Vikings game, I was one Justin Jefferson touchdown away from like 175. It's like,
Unforgivable. Unforgivable
uh,
that the best
well, especially
receiver in the league
you know,
didn't get a touchdown in the
and he
playoffs.
scored right, but then they reviewed it and it was half yard short. So
Yeah.
then Kirk Cousins QB sneaked it in, which is the lamest Vegas thing ever. I don't think a whole lot of people had Kirk Cousins anytime scorer on their
Yeah.
thing.
So,
So that
Uh,
just sucked.
my last comment on this game. So in our weekly picks, I have to admit I did pick the Vikings, but I was playing some mental games where I was like, okay, if I pick the Vikings to win and they lose, then it's not going to matter. I'm going to be really happy. But if I pick the Vikings to lose and then they win, it's like a double negative. So I went with the lesser of two emotional evils.
I do that every week for the Packers.
And
Either
they
the
might.
Packers lose or I got my prediction correct.
So basically, what that boils down to is tonight's Buccaneers Cowboys game is the rubber match for our weekly picks.
I could use some good fortune in the picks department. It's been a
Yeah.
tough couple weeks for me versus you. So
So let's talk about that pick that you lost.
the chart. Okay. Well, I love the person who thought it was a good idea to bet $1.7 million on the Chargers when they were up by 27 to win $11,000. Which my quick math is what that's like 0.9% that you're yielding back if you just win that. That's tough.
When I first saw that tweet, I thought before reading it that someone did a live bet on the Jags money line. And I was like, oh my God, they're going to cash out so big. Because I think all of us that were watching that game on Saturday night were sitting there thinking, okay, Trevor Lawrence just scored right before the half. The Chargers are the one team, minus maybe the Atlanta Falcons, that you could totally see blowing this game right now. And if I would have been in a situation where it was legal to bet, I absolutely would have put just a handful of dollars on the Jags money line, or even shit, just the
You should have
uh,
texted me.
I should have. I didn't even think of it.
So Jaguars in the first half was awful. Trevor Lawrence had four interceptions, three of them to Asante Samuel Jr. Chargers got up 27 to nothing, and then in vintage Brandon Staley style, they blew it, and this was the third largest comeback in playoff history or NFL history.
I think it's the third
Just
largest in playoff.
unfathomable that happened, and I cannot believe that the Chargers blew it that hard, especially to a team that had the first overall pick last year. So, and credit to Trevor Lawrence because he did go to Waffle House after the game, like a legend would. Good for him. I think so Doug Peterson gets a lot of credit, I think, for the way he rallied the troops. I think Trevor Lawrence deserves a lot of credit for the way he played in the second half. Jaguars as a whole, good job on them for staying strong and kind of willing themselves back into the game. But I kind of want to focus more on the Chargers. One, is there any way back here for Brandon Staley after this loss?
I don't know, man, because I think Brandon Staley was starting to feel a warmer seat mid-season, and then they kind of went on this run at the end of the regular season to make the playoffs. And then, for reasons unbeknownst to you and I and many other people around the country, he decided to play his starters in the final week of the season and injure one of their best offensive, or he didn't, but one of their best offensive players got injured. And then this happens. And I was listening to the radio earlier this morning on um, my way over, and I don't know who it was one of the local sports stations, but they were talking about how if you ask any NFL player if they could get one thing, It wouldn't be more speed. It wouldn't be more strength. It wouldn't be more endurance. It would be, I just want to feel a little bit better in January during playoff football. Like, I want to have a little bit more rest. I want to have a little bit more freshness to my legs. And I can see playing your guys for like a series or two, sort of like the Buccaneers did. But man, I don't know. I think his seat's pretty warm, if not hot, right now.
Yeah, I think deep down he's going to keep his job, but he's going to come into next season with fire under his ass instead of it being a hot seat. So he's going to have little to no margin for error next year. Second thing I wanted to talk about, I am starting to get a sneaking suspicion that Khalil Mack is cursed. My man cannot be on a team with a playoff win, I guess, ever in his career.
Heartbreaking losses too, not just
Yeah,
oh, we got blown out and we barely deserve to be here. No, no, no. Like devastating. Like losses that we're going to talk about for decades to come.
yes. Because at the beginning of the season, Bears GM Ryan Poles traded him to the Chargers, and one of his rationales was like, look, we're in full rebuild. Khalil doesn't need to be here for the rebuild. Like, we want him to try and do something relevant with his career while he's only got a couple years left, which is the classic thing to do. And then poor guy gets traded to the Chargers, and this happens. So I still think this roster is way too talented to be giving up a 27-point comeback to the Jaguars. Jaguars are a gritty team, but I think we're about to see what happens when a elite team plays the Jaguars here next week.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they'll shock the world. I highly doubt it, but I think that'd be incredibly cool if they beat the Chiefs. But we'll see. So, Mike McDaniel, big vape guy, right?
Apparently, he's the vape god of the NFL. Big Miami move, if we're being honest. I mean, if there's a coach of any team, it's going to be Miami.
Yeah. That went viral. That was pretty funny. I honestly didn't notice like he had like a black little tip in his hand until you pointed it out to me. I'm like, oh, I just completely missed that.
But yeah, because I saw the
So
video first time after you tweeted it, and it was like, is he just warming up his hand? I don't know. That's kind of weird. So I slowed it down, and I was like, no, no, no. He's definitely holding something in his hand. You can see it right there.
yeah, I'll say I've had my doubts about McDaniel. They played really well in suboptimal conditions in Buffalo with Skylar Thompson as their quarterback. They handled themselves very well. So I got to give a tip of the cap to them for keeping the Bills honest all game. Bills only won by 3. Josh Allen is continuing some of his regular season tendencies of being a turnover machine.
So I've
And
been keeping a take in my back pocket about Josh Allen, and I haven't really said anything because I thought it would eventually work itself out.
sorry, it's Mr. January actually, according to Tony Romo.
Okay, Mr. January. Well, either way, I've been holding a Josh Allen take in my back pocket. Like, dude is one of the most electric quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And he's got a rocket arm. I mean, an absolute cannon for an arm. And he's a weapon when he's running the ball. But, man, his turnover tendencies are a liability. And I have this sinking feeling that the Bills exit from the playoffs this year, which I am predicting is now going to happen before uh, the Super Bowl, is probably going to come in some way, shape, or form at the hands of like a back-breaking Josh Allen interception. Because I thought there was a few times in the regular season it was like one or two games, but he's kind of got a track record now, and it reminds me a little bit of like a modern day Brett Favre, where it's like the guy's got a cannon, he takes his shot, he can throw an absolute rainbow downfield, but then it's just like, oh, why did you do that, Josh?
Yeah, I think we're going to touch on the Bengals here in a second too. So the Bills aren't exactly giving me the warm and fuzzies after this last game, but who knows? They may just turn it on next week. But the Bengals are coming to town. Bengals didn't exactly look really good last night either against another situation where the starting quarterback wasn't playing. So Josh Allen has to be better. I think otherwise, on the offensive side, like running game could be a little more consistent, but receivers are doing a great job getting open, catching balls, things like that. Defensively, they did fine. They didn't have the worst game ever. They got put in some bad spots by their offense. I think defensively they can just keep it up. I really think that defense misses Von Miller right now more than anything, though. I think not having Von Miller out there definitely impacts the pass rush a bit. But
Yep.
I don't know. If Josh Allen can just calm down, I still have high hopes for the team. If Josh Allen is playing hero ball on 2nd and 4 in the second quarter when they're up by 17, I'm going to start to be a little concerned. So,
Well, the other
but
thing
yeah, the
is, you said the
Bengal.
defense didn't look great. They were also playing, or they looked okay. They were also playing Skylar Thompson,
That's true.
and his stat line yesterday was not good. And we all saw it. They couldn't get out of the huddle and even get up to the line to run a play.
That
So
was unforgivable. Especially they reset the clock for him too, and they still had a delay game.
So not only do I not have the warm and fuzzies about the Bills, I mm, I don't know. I feel a lot less great about them than I did at the beginning of the season. Like less than warm and fuzzies, like kind of dark.
You were talking about your Josh Allen hot take being in your back pocket. What else is in your pockets?
This one's empty. This is like a magic trick. Got my car keys.
No, I was I was seeing if you had any other great hot takes just lurking about.
I do, but it depends how tonight's game goes.
Uh-oh. Well, this could be the end of Mike McCarthy tonight. The game's coming up here later on today, so we don't have anything to report on the Buccaneers Cowboys game, but the winner of that game has the enviable task of going to San Francisco to try to beat the 49ers. So good luck with that, whatever happens there. I think, well, I want to touch on the Bengals here real quick before. Well, no, I guess we
Yeah,
just brought it up. It could be Mike McCarthy's last game as a Cowboy coach tonight, depending on how badly they lose. And if they win by 3 and then get blown out next week, I still think he might be in a little bit of trouble.
I think it all depends who they could line up as his replacement.
Kellen Moore or
Oh,
probably Sean Payton, but
as I say, if it's Sean
Sean
Payton,
Payton would be
yes.
that'd be a very Jerry Jones hire, wouldn't it? That'd be like something
Jerry
Jerry
Jones
Jones would
has
do.
wanted Sean Payton for the last decade.
Yeah, yeah. So interesting to see what happens about the game tonight and Bengals. I cannot believe the Bengals almost lost to the Ravens with Tyler Huntley as the quarterback. Tyler Huntley actually didn't look half bad. There are some moments in the game where you're like, wow, Lamar wouldn't have done that. Like, oh, you missed a receiver, like, you put it on his back shoulder instead of his front shoulder, or you missed this read, or things like that. But all honestly, like Tyler Huntley did enough for the Ravens to win last night. I think they botched the QB sneak or whatever, where he tried to reach it over, and then Sam Hubbard took it 98 yards for a defensive touchdown. I don't understand how the ball doesn't go to J.K. Dobbins or Kenyon Drake or any of the running back talent that they have there. But what do
Well,
I know?
they also kind of talked about it in the broadcast too. Usually on a jump like that, you don't have everyone behind pushing. You know, everyone pushes from behind when you stay low and try to get low. So it was kind of a poorly executed sneak as well. Like usually you try to spread everyone out so when you jump there's less mass in front of you to clear. And they sort of did the opposite where they brought everybody in tight and then he's trying to jump over, four or five bodies rather than, one or two.
Yeah, and if anybody's watched the Eagles this year, the Eagles have basically perfected the art of the QB sneak. So, yeah, 100% right there. I do want to touch on one other thing. I was making a shot at Tony Romo earlier. I thought Tony Romo is starting to get a little more annoying as he continues his commentating career. He used to be like super cool because he would predict what would happen based on the pre-snap read before the play even happened, and I thought that was like always super cool and insightful. And he does have some good insights, but when he says, "I don't know, Jim," I just want to rip my hair out. When he does things like compare Josh Allen to Michael Jordan, I want to rip my hair out. When he calls Josh Allen Mr. January, despite Josh Allen never getting to a Super Bowl, kind of want to rip my hair out. So, had that to say about him. I thought the Al Michaels Tony Dungy combination for the Chargers game was one of the worst commentating jobs I've ever heard in my entire life, especially for a game with as much historical impact as that with the 27-point comeback. It sounded like Al Michaels was the kind of guy who's at the corner of the bar, not really knowing where he is and trying to figure out what's happening on TV. And then on the flip side, Mike Tirico had one of the best calls ever with the Hubbard touchdown last night. So Mike Tirico deserves a lot of praise for not only that call, but he's done a great job all year. I thought Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit, I've had my doubts about him, and some games have been better than others. They've had a tough sled with some of the games they've had to call on Thursday night with just some, piss poor matchups. But there's been some times this year where Al Michaels has maybe chuckled or kind of brought back some of his old flair. But I don't know what. I just don't know if he was just not up for it on Saturday night or what happened.
Yeah, it's disappointing because when I saw that he was on the call, the first half of the game I wasn't listening to it. We were out to dinner. They just had it on the TV at the bar. And then we got back to our hotel and we sat in the lobby and watched. And I was like, oh, Al Michaels, this will be great. And then it wasn't the same Al Michaels that we usually got. And I don't know if it was because he was with Tony Dungy, and Dungy's not the most animated guy in the world. Where like Chris Collinsworth is clearly one of the more animated guys in the world, and that just Michaels fed off that. I don't know. It was just disappointing because I was really excited to have him back in the booth, and then it was a bleh.
Yeah, for sure. So a couple questions about the Ravens game. First of all, do you think the Bengals would have lost if Lamar had played?
Mm, the way the Bengals played, no. Well, if Lamar's healthy, if he played with a bum ass knee and it really was as bad as he says it is, then maybe not. But um, yeah, if he's healthy, then no, the Ravens win that game.
Yeah. The second thing I want to talk about again with Lamar was kind of this building agenda against him. So Mike Vick goes on to Fox and says that he should just strap a brace on it and play, which was correctly pointed out by RG3 himself on Twitter as to being a terrible idea because RG3's career was permanently altered after he tried to do the same thing in the playoffs that one year and ended up making things exponentially worse for his future outlook.
Yep.
Kind of like almost a franchise altering move there for the Commanders because they pretty much had their franchise quarterback set and ready, and then piss poor management and health derailed that. So don't necessarily agree with that. Old friend Sammy Watkins comes through the door at Baltimore and starts offering up his opinions about the team as if he's been there forever, saying that if Lamar had played, he could single-handedly will the team to a Super Bowl, even if he was not 100%. It just seems like Lamar's out of a contract now and entering this period now where he's going to start negotiating. I think he's going to start negotiating with the Ravens. I'm pretty sure that's probably what they'll do.
I mean, he already has been.
Yeah, he had, and then they stopped for the season, and now they should be picking right back up where they started. But it just seems like there's this anti-Lamar agenda going around, and I'm not quite sure what he's supposed to do if his knee's not 100%. I think it's a little distasteful.
I was talking I was talking to a few people yesterday, and here's the deal. We have no idea how bad his injury is. Like truly don't have any idea. And for the Fox people like Mike Vick and even I think Charles Woodson had some words, like to sit back and tell him just like strap a brace on didn't really sit well with me, especially like you said, considering how RG3 went down. If he's actually injured, which I'll give Lamar the benefit of the doubt and say, yeah, he probably is. But I did think it was a bit odd that he didn't travel with the team to the game.
That is
That
true.
part I thought was a little weird.
I do agree there. I think, yeah, you got to go support your guys.
Yeah, especially in a playoff game as the captain.
Yeah. So we'll see what this. It's going to be an interesting offseason for the Ravens. One thing that's not going to be interesting for their offseason is that Roquan Smith did sign a 5-year, $100 million extension. So he got exactly the money that he wanted from Chicago, but the Ravens gave it to him instead. That's a lot of money, especially when you have to. I think Roquan is worth it to an extent. I think given what he does for the linebacker position for that team, he definitely makes the defense better. It's more just the other areas of the team that they still need to address, like paying Lamar Jackson and then having some competent receivers for Lamar Jackson to throw to, I think are also very important. So I guess it's too late now. They're kind of stuck with it. So can't go back now, but
No.
I'm curious to see what this does for the long term impact for the Ravens. On the flip side, I do think the Bengals need to play better in Buffalo. They can't mess around. I think it's kind of weird that we have the two teams that are supposed to be competing with the Chiefs, and both didn't look at their best yesterday. But still a lot of playoffs left for them to figure out. I guess one of them only got 1 week left, but I genuinely hope whoever comes out of the Bills Bengals game can take it to the Chiefs if they beat Jacksonville. So the only thing I really had to talk about from the 49ers Seahawks game, 49ers walked through it. It's pretty as expected. The only question I had was about Geno Smith. Do you think Geno Smith's done enough this year to table Seattle's discussion for quarterbacks in the offseason, and do we need to trade for one? Do we need to draft one? Et cetera, et cetera. Or has Geno done enough to just put that to bed and say, I'm QB1 for next year?
I think it depends what other options exist, honestly, because I don't think it's worth like going all in on somebody new. But if you know the right opportunity came up, I think it'd be worth even if you sign someone and you say, "Hey, we're gonna have 1 more year or 2 more years of Geno," because I mean, it's not like Geno Smith's a young guy anymore. This is what his 10th season, so I don't think you can
Something
like
like that.
build. I don't think you build your whole future around Geno, but I think you can build the next 2 to 3 seasons around Geno, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, they do pick fifth in the draft, so I mean, if they really wanted to, they could look at a quarterback there, but I doubt it. They're in actually a really good trade out spot too if someone wants like a Will Levis
Yep.
or something. Speaking of the draft, C.J. Stroud had till today, the 16th, to declare if he was coming in the draft or not, and he did declare this morning. So I think he made the correct decision. Part of me, as a cynical Bears fan, was hoping he'd stay another year because then that means the first pick in the draft would be exponentially more worth it because Bryce Young would really be the only really elite quarterback coming into the draft. So, but good for Stroud. It'll be good for whatever team gets him. I think they're going to be lucky to have him. So, I think we can talk about the Bears now.
Let's talk about him.
All right. Well, the first one I wanted to bring up was this trade proposal. I think it was made by CBS as like a hypothetical. Bears trade the first overall pick to the Colts at 4 for the Colts pick, Colts next year first round pick, Colts second round pick this year, and DeForest Buckner. Who says no?
Not me.
Not me. Give me all of that. I know DeForest Buckner again is one of those who's established veteran, very good at his job. How many productive years he has left remains to be seen, but he is a guy that can come in immediately and make an impact for defense with a front seven that's atrocious. So give me the Colts first this year, next year, second this year, and DeForest Buckner for our first pick. I would say yes in a heartbeat. No doubt about it. Second thing I wanted to discuss. Do you ever feel like the media sometimes invents stuff to keep themselves talking about stuff?
Yeah, it's job security.
Well, there was a good stretch in the season there where the beginning of the season, and I'll admit, I started out the season, Justin didn't look great the first couple of games of the year, and I was like, well, what's going on here? Then he went on this run of just great game after great game after great game. And everybody in the NFL and everybody in the media said, wow, look at the Bears. They got a franchise quarterback finally. They're look really, really good. And Justin Fields is balling out. Now we get the first pick in the draft. Now all of a sudden it's, well, maybe Justin Fields should be running back, or maybe the Bears should trade Justin Fields, or why would they keep Justin Fields when Bryce Young's available at number one? And it's like, well, hang on a second. You guys just spent all season talking about how good Justin Fields was, and now you're creating storylines and whatnot about how the Bears should move on from Justin Fields. So, like, which is it? Do you guys like him, or do you not like him, or are you just doing this for clicks?
You ever think maybe that's the Bears trying to make their first overall pick look even more valuable from a trade standpoint?
I think we fresh ran out of tinfoil this morning.
Hey, you're the tank guy, and I feel like tanking goes hand in hand with smoke screening and just playing those mental games. Because I mean, realistically, the Bears don't need that number one pick, so why not? I mean, didn't Ryan Poles even say something on record about all options are on the table in a press conference?
Sure did. He said he wants to take the best available player, but he said it'd have to be something pretty drastic for them to move on from Justin. And I think everybody can see how this is going to go. That they're definitely not going to be taking a quarterback.
No,
And
but when it's Thursday evening of the draft, 20 minutes before the Bears are on the clock, and panic starts to set in for the Houston Texans or the Indianapolis Colts or whoever it is that really need a quarterback, that, oh, they might actually take someone. They might go full Arizona Cardinals and ditch their first round guy for another first round guy. And now that there's a precedent for it out there, why wouldn't someone play that game that, hey, maybe we will do that, even if they're not going to? And, they could sit down with Justin and his team in advance and say, look, you're our guy. We're sticking with you, but we're going to try to get as much as we can for this first pick. So if you see anything publicly, it's purely we're trying to rile people up so we can get the most value for this pick.
yeah, and I get it, but it's just really annoying to kind of have to see all this nonsense. And Justin doesn't deserve any of this because, he was in such a bad situation this year and he still managed to make something out of it by impressing a lot of people. I mean, he just was in a terrible offense with almost nothing going his way and was still remarkable. So,
I'm the biggest Packers fan on this podcast, and I would love nothing more than to watch the Bears completely screw up having the number one pick in a draft. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think this is all just a game they're playing, and it's going to work out the way it's supposed to.
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Old friend, Matt Nagy. He is a. The Titans have requested an interview from not only Matt Nagy for their offensive coordinator position, but Eric Bieniemy. Because if I'm Eric Bieniemy, I think going from the offensive coordinator position at the Chiefs to the Titans is a huge step up. What's going on there? Not only does the Matt Nagy thing infuriating because that would be putting your offense backwards, but why even try Eric Bieniemy? He's being considered for other head coaching positions. If he doesn't get a head coaching job somewhere, I don't think he's just going to leave. So that one's insane to me.
Hey, NFL organizations do crazy things. This is why Joe Barry is also a defensive coordinator, and apparently the Packers are running it back. Same theory can be applied here.
Got to stick with your guys, right?
Yeah, loyalty, yay.
Yay. Well, speaking of loyalty, Sean McVay's returning.
Yeah, and apparently his nose tackle might be question mark.
So, got to give him credit. Sean McVay is coming back and dealing with some of the situation that he and his GM caused. But Aaron Donald temporarily changed his Twitter bio to former Rams defensive tackle. That got a lot of people interesting. It was changed back relatively quickly, but that's interesting. The other one that's interesting is that apparently there's some mufflings going on that Jalen Ramsey might be gone. he might be either cut or whatnot and looking for a new opportunity next year.
Do we still think he's a top five corner in the league?
I wouldn't say top five. I think
Top
he's one of
10?
the top five. Maybe we'll say top five game changing defenders, but that comes with
That's
its
fair.
pros and cons. Of he's not like a step for step. I don't even know who the best corner in the league right now is.
No, neither do I.
I mean, there's this debate going on about between Tariq Woolen and Sauce Gardner. I personally would. I think they're both fantastic. I personally would take Tariq Woolen. I think that dude's a stud. There's several other really good corners in football. Adoree Jackson against Justin Jefferson was amazing. Good for him. He's kind of like an unsung hero out there. Jalen Johnson of the Bears is really good. Jair Alexander's, uh, he's fine. He's good at his job. I just don't like him as a person.
Separate the art from the artist.
Yeah. He's good at his job, but he's not the best at it. He's not the best in the league, as he would tell you, but he's still good at it.
No.
Trayvon Diggs is pretty good. DJ Reed's pretty good. But I think, yeah, so Ramsey is definitely in the conversation, we'll say. It's hard to kind of get a top five ranking at this point in time, but I mean, I would take him. And we have cap to burn, so why not? Sign him to like a 2-year, $37 million deal. What do you got? What's the downside to that? Because we do need some veteran. I was talking about, I think it was hilarious. Said it on the podcast. 12 hours later, DeAndre Hopkins is on the trading block. You just can kind of say that why would he want to be in Arizona right now? And why would the organization want him? Because I don't think that's going to be a building block for their future. So it can get something out of him.
So I had to laugh when I saw that come out in the rankings of like the odds of team to land with. And for some ungodly reason, the Packers were listed as the number 2 team and the Bears were listed as the 4. And I was like, okay, come on. Are we being serious right now? Do people
see? I think when people make those lists, they do not factor in all of the external factors. They're just thinking, "Oh, Packers need a receiver. I think he should go to the Packers."
Here's the other thing. I don't think they do need a receiver. Bears, they absolutely need a receiver. Bears need 4 receivers. Okay, 3 receivers.
Wait. Oh, are you just saying because we're going to have 3 receivers on the field? Or was there someone that made the cut for you? I guess Mooney's pretty good.
Yeah, that Mooney was who was made the cut for me.
Okay. Yes, the Bears need 3 receivers in the offseason to help. So, yeah, I think that's kind of interesting, but Jalen Ramsey may be gone. Matt Patricia's gone from New England, so I think their offense is going to be significantly better next year. Matt LaFleur's brother Mike is out at the Jets as an offensive coordinator. The Saints announced that Dennis Allen is returning to coach, so we can put the Sean Payton to Saints rumors back to bed. And if someone wants Sean Payton as their coach next year, they will need to compensate the Saints in some sort of fashion, probably some sort of draft pick in the form of a trade. And then last but not least, Derek Carr officially said goodbye to Raiders fans on social media, so that pretty much is signaling that he is going to be part of a new experience going forward and not a Raider next year. Any of those just tickle your feathers?
Yeah, Derek Carr, future Colt.
Oh, no. I mean, actually, he might. I think the Colts 100% need to draft a quarterback, but it might not be a bad idea to have a veteran just kind of there just in case. So
I could also see him going to like the Commanders. Just kind of I guess I'm just repeating all the teams that these like middle-aged quarterbacks go to.
yeah, I think the veteran QB market this year is going to be an interesting one, that's for sure. So, yeah, the last thing I kind of wanted to rant about was the roughing the passer that we saw in the Giants game, or as you politely put it on Twitter, making a football play. How many roughing the passer calls are being called nowadays where it's basically just a football play?
Way too many, man. Way too many. One a week?
Yeah, I don't know who the defensive lineman was there, but I think it was criminal for them to get a roughing the passer at a pretty pivotal point in the game too. For them to get flagged for that was ridiculous. So I think that's one thing. I get the intent of the rule, but it's one thing that they need to correct. So, all right, playoffs. what is this? This is the divisional round. We got the divisional round. Super Wild Card weekend is now behind us. Got the divisional round. So you have the Buccaneers tonight. I have the Cowboys. So either way you slice it, I'm assuming we're still confident in San Francisco to get to the NFC Championship game.
So that was the other take that's been in my pocket. But yes, I think San Francisco is going to. The other take I was sitting on was if the Buccaneers play tonight like they did on New Year's Day, they will make it a game in San Francisco. But I still think San Francisco is going to win that game.
Okay. And then of the remaining games, without revealing too much before our predictions, so we got Giants at Eagles, we have Jaguars at Chiefs, and we have Bengals at Bills. Which home team is most likely in danger of losing from those three matchups?
Buffalo.
Really? So you think the Bengals? Well, I would tend to agree. I think if this weekend taught us anything is that there's nothing that's for certain in the NFL playoffs, and any team can lose any Sunday or Saturday, I guess.
I also kind of have my eyes on the Giants though too. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't been like fully on board the Philly bandwagon all season. And is Jalen Hurts healthy? Question mark. Fully.
Question mark. Question mark.
I don't know.
We said it like 5-6 weeks ago that I think the playoffs are really going to come down to which team gets hot at the right time, and I think the Giants are heating up.
Yeah.
So
I would agree. I would love to see Danny Dimes play himself into like an awesome contract.
yeah. So lots of questions still remain out there. We should have a lot more answers when we record next week. So hope everybody continues to enjoy the NFL playoffs. We were having a lot of fun with it, and we're looking forward to not only discussing the games, but then previewing the AFC and NFC championship game. And the Super Bowl is not too far away, so it's exciting times to be a football fan. So thanks, everybody, for listening, and we hope you have a good one.